Picture this. On December 9th, 2024, Google announced something that shouldn't be possible. Their quantum computer, called Willow, performed calculations so complex that completing them on a classical computer would take longer than the universe has existed. But here's what made scientists pause in wonder. The only way this computational miracle makes sense, according to Google's own researchers, is if some theoretical interpretations could describe the computer as borrowing processing power from parallel universes. Not science fiction, not speculation. A multi-billion-dollar corporation sparking discussions that other realities might theoretically be overlapping with ours right now, helping solve problems in our world. Welcome to a journey into the most profound mystery of our time. I'm here to guide you through discoveries that are reshaping everything we thought we knew about reality itself. Tonight, we'll explore evidence that suggests our universe might not be alone. That invisible dimensions could be brushing against our everyday experience, and that the boundaries between what's possible and impossible are far more fluid than we ever imagined. If you're settling in for the evening, finding a comfortable spot to let your mind wander, you've come to the right place. This is where science meets wonder, where rigorous research opens doorways to possibilities that feel almost magical. Take a deep breath, allow yourself to be curious, and let's begin this gentle exploration into the edges of known reality. The story begins not in some distant galaxy or abstract mathematical realm, but in a laboratory where the impossible became routine. Google's quantum AI team, led by Hartmut Neven, had been working for years to build a quantum computer that could outperform classical machines in meaningful ways. They knew they were close to something significant, but even they weren't prepared for what Willow would reveal. When the results came in, the numbers were staggering. Willow had solved a problem in 5 minutes that would take the world's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years to complete. To put that in perspective, 10 septillion years is a 1 followed by 25 zeros. The age of our universe, by comparison, is a mere 13.8 billion years. We're talking about computational power that transcends not just our current technology, but the entire timeline of cosmic existence. But raw computational speed wasn't what captured the scientific community's attention. It was Neven's explanation for how this was possible. He suggested that the unprecedented performance could only be understood through what physicists call the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. In simpler terms, Willow might be performing calculations by accessing what some theorists describe as parallel versions of itself across multiple universes. This isn't the first time scientists have proposed that quantum computers might tap into parallel realities. British physicist David Deutsch, one of the pioneers of quantum computing theory, suggested decades ago that quantum calculations might involve particles existing in multiple states simultaneously across different universes. What's new is that we now have a machine powerful enough to make this theoretical possibility feel tangible and real. As you listen to this, consider how this might change your understanding of what's happening around you right now. If parallel universes are indeed overlapping with ours, according to certain interpretations, then every quantum event in your body, every photon hit in your eyes, every neural impulse in your brain might be part of a vast, interconnected, web-spanning multiple realities. It's a humbling and awe-inspiring thought. The many worlds interpretation, first proposed by physicist Hugh Everett in 1957, suggests that every time a quantum measurement occurs, the universe splits into multiple branches. Each branch represents a different possible outcome, and all of them are equally real. According to this view, there's a universe where you chose a different breakfast this morning, another where you took a different route to work, and countless others where major historical events unfolded differently. This interpretation has always been controversial, partly because it seems so fantastical, and partly because it's been nearly impossible to test. How do you prove the existence of universes you can never directly observe? Google's Willow chip doesn't provide definitive proof, but it offers something perhaps more compelling: practical evidence that some researchers interpret as potentially consistent with multiverse interactions, which might be measurable and useful. The quantum computer works by manipulating quantum bits, or qubits, that can exist in multiple states simultaneously. Unlike classical computer bits that are either 0 or 1, qubits can be both 0 and 1 at the same time, a phenomenon called superposition. When multiple qubits become entangled, they create a web of possibilities that grows exponentially with each additional qubit. What's remarkable about Willow is not just its computational power, but how it maintains coherence across these quantum states. Quantum systems are notoriously fragile, easily disrupted by the slightest environmental interference. Yet Willow manages to preserve quantum information long enough to perform calculations that dwarf anything previously achieved. This stability, according to Neven and his team, suggests that the system might be exhibiting behaviour that some theorists associate with resources beyond our single universe, though this remains speculative. The implications extend far beyond computing. If quantum computers are indeed accessing parallel universes, as suggested by some interpretations, it raises profound questions about the nature of reality itself. Are we living in just one strand of an infinite cosmic web? Do our choices and actions ripple across multiple dimensions? And if other realities are influencing our own, what does that mean for concepts like free will, destiny, and the uniqueness of human experience? These questions aren't merely philosophical anymore. They're becoming practical considerations as we develop technologies that might depend on multiverse interactions. Scientists are already exploring how quantum computing could revolutionize fields, from drug discovery to climate modeling, potentially by leveraging theoretical models involving multiple quantum branches. But Google's announcement is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Across multiple fields of research, scientists are uncovering evidence that suggests our reality might be far more interconnected with other dimensions than we ever imagined. Let's explore some of these discoveries and see how they paint a picture of a universe that's stranger and more wonderful than our ancestors dared to dream. Astronomers studying the cosmic microwave background radiation, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, have detected anomalies that some researchers believe could be signatures of interactions with parallel universes. One particularly intriguing feature is what scientists call the cold spot, an unexpectedly large region where the background radiation is cooler than theoretical models predict. Laura Mersini-Houghton, a cosmologist at the University of North Carolina, has proposed that this cold spot might be interpreted as the scar left by a collision between our universe and another one during the early moments after the Big Bang. According to her calculations, if enough universes formed close together during cosmic inflation, some might have collided before being separated by the rapid expansion of space. Such a collision would send a pulse of energy across the universe, like ripples from a stone dropped in a pond. This energy wave would leave an imprint on the cosmic microwave background that we can still detect today, billions of years later. While this interpretation remains controversial, It represents one of the first hypothesized forms of observational evidence for the existence of other universes. Take a moment to consider what this might mean. The light reaching your eyes right now, whether from your screen or the room around you, carries within it the history of the universe. Some of that light has travelled for billions of years, potentially carrying information about cosmic events that shaped not just our reality, but what some theories describe as interactions between multiple realities. You're literally surrounded by evidence of the deepest mysteries of existence. Other researchers have found different types of evidence that point toward a multiverse. Teams analysing data from space telescopes have discovered that our universe's dark energy density appears to be not optimal for star formation. If our universe were fine-tuned for creating stars and potentially life, dark energy would be about 10 times weaker than what we observe. This finding suggests that there might be countless other universes with different physical parameters, some of which are far better suited for generating stars, planets, and possibly life than our own. We might be living in a relatively mediocre universe, cosmically speaking, which actually supports the idea that we're one of many random variations rather than a specially designed unique reality. String theory, one of physics' most ambitious attempts to unify all fundamental forces, also naturally predicts the existence of multiple universes. The mathematical framework of string theory requires extra dimensions beyond the 3 spatial dimensions and one time dimension we experience directly. These extra dimensions can be compactified or curled up in an enormous number of different ways, each configuration corresponding to a universe with different physical laws and constants. Physicists estimate that string theory allows for approximately 10 to the 500th power different possible universes. That's a number so large it defies comprehension, far exceeding the number of atoms in our observable universe. Each of these potential realities would have its own unique properties, different particles, forces, and even different numbers of spatial dimensions. The landscape of possible universes predicted by string theory is so vast that finding our particular configuration among all the possibilities would be like finding a specific grain of sand among all the beaches on Earth, multiplied by itself countless times. Yet here we are, experiencing this particular version of reality, suggesting that all these other possibilities might exist somewhere in the cosmic ensemble. Recent advances in quantum entanglement research are also providing new insights into how parallel realities might be connected. Scientists have demonstrated the ability to create quantum correlations between particles separated by vast distances, correlations that seem to transcend ordinary space and time. These experiments reveal that quantum entanglement creates connections that might link different branches of reality. When 2 particles become quantum entangled, measuring one instantly affects the other, regardless of the distance between them. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance, but modern physics has shown that entanglement is a fundamental feature of quantum mechanics. Some interpretations suggest that entangled particles might be understood as the same particle existing across multiple universes, with measurements causing the universes to branch while maintaining correlations between the branches. As you contemplate these ideas, notice how they might shift your perspective on connection and isolation. If quantum entanglement can create instantaneous correlations across space, and if the many worlds interpretation is correct, then you might be fundamentally connected to alternate versions of yourself across multiple realities. Every decision point, Every moment of uncertainty might be a place where your consciousness touches the edges of parallel possibilities. This brings us to one of the most intriguing aspects of multiverse research: the question of whether consciousness plays a special role in quantum mechanics and reality creation. While we must be careful not to overstate the scientific consensus here, some interpretations of quantum mechanics do suggest that observation and measurement have unique significance in determining which possibilities become actual experiences. The measurement problem in quantum mechanics asks why quantum superpositions collapse into definite states when observed. Traditional interpretations suggest that consciousness or measurement devices somehow cause this collapse, but the many worlds interpretation offers a different perspective. Instead of collapse, it proposes that all possibilities continue to exist, with consciousness simply following one particular branch while remaining unaware of the others. This speculative idea, while not scientifically proven, raises fascinating questions about the relationship between mind and reality. If consciousness does navigate between different branches of the multiverse, as some philosophical interpretations explore, it might explain some of the mysterious aspects of human experience: intuition, creativity, the sense that important decisions feel like choosing between different possible futures. Consider how often you've had the experience of knowing something was about to happen before it occurred, or feeling drawn toward a particular choice for reasons you couldn't quite explain. While these experiences have many possible explanations, some researchers speculate, purely theoretically, that consciousness might have subtle access to information from parallel realities where different choices led to different outcomes. The implications of overlapping realities extend beyond physics and philosophy into practical questions about technology, consciousness, and human potential. If quantum computers can indeed access parallel universes for computational power, as suggested in some theoretical models, what other technologies might emerge from our growing understanding of multiverse interactions? Some researchers are exploring whether quantum communication systems might allow for information exchange between different branches of reality. While this remains highly speculative, the theoretical framework exists for what scientists call inter-world communication protocols. These would use quantum entanglement and superposition to potentially send simple messages between parallel versions of the same experimental setup. Imagine the possibilities if such communication became possible. We might be able to access the collective knowledge and creativity of parallel versions of humanity, learn from the successes and failures of alternative historical timelines, or even coordinate responses to global challenges across multiple realities. While this remains in the realm of speculation, the rapid advancement of quantum technology suggests that ideas once confined to science fiction might become tomorrow's engineering challenges. The journey we've begun tonight takes us through territories where science and wonder intersect, where rigorous research reveals possibilities that stretch our understanding of what it means to exist in this universe. We've explored evidence from quantum computing, cosmology, and fundamental physics that suggests our reality might be just one thread in a vast tapestry of overlapping possibilities. As we continue this exploration in the next part of our journey, we'll delve deeper into the experimental evidence for parallel universes, examine how consciousness might be interpreted as navigating between different realities, and consider what the existence of multiple dimensions might mean for questions about purpose, meaning, and human potential in a cosmos far stranger and more interconnected than we ever imagined. The boundary between science and philosophy, between the proven and the possible, becomes beautifully blurred when we consider that the very atoms in your body, the quantum processes in your brain, the light reaching your eyes might all be part of a cosmic dance that some theoretical models describe as spanning multiple realities. Whether you're drifting towards sleep or fully alert with curiosity, let these ideas settle gently into your awareness as we prepare to journey even deeper into the mystery of overlapping realities. The laboratory where Willow performs its quantum calculations sits in Mountain View, California, but the computational space it occupies might extend far beyond our three-dimensional world. When researchers first witnessed the machine's performance, they realized they weren't just observing faster processing, they were potentially watching what some theorists interpret as the first technological hint of interdimensional cooperation. Think about that for a moment. Every quantum calculation might involve versions of the same computer working together across parallel realities, each contributing to a solution that emerges in our universe. It's as if reality itself has become a collaborative workspace where infinite versions of the same experiment unfold simultaneously, with only one result materializing in our experience. This isn't mere speculation anymore. The mathematics underlying quantum computation require what physicists call superposition, where quantum bits exist in multiple states until measurement forces them to choose. But where do these multiple states exist? The many worlds interpretation suggests they occupy parallel branches of reality, each as real as the universe you're experiencing right now. While this remains one interpretation among several, it offers a compelling conceptual framework for understanding these phenomena. As you consider this possibility, notice how it might shift your perception of choice and possibility in your own life. If parallel realities branch from every quantum event, then alternate versions of this moment exist where you made different decisions, chose different paths, experienced different outcomes. The very act of listening to these words might be creating countless variations of this conversation across the multiverse. The implications become even more profound when we consider that quantum events aren't limited to specialized laboratories. They're happening continuously in your brain, in every living cell, in the light reaching your eyes from distant stars. Quantum mechanics operates at the foundation of biological processes, from photosynthesis in plants to potentially even consciousness itself. Some researchers propose that microtubules within neurons might maintain quantum coherence long enough to influence neural processing. While this remains highly speculative and lacks scientific consensus, it raises intriguing questions about whether consciousness might naturally access quantum properties that connect us to parallel possibilities. Dr. Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff have suggested that consciousness might emerge from quantum processes in the brain, though their theory remains controversial within the scientific community. What's interesting isn't necessarily whether their specific model is correct, but how it illustrates the ongoing scientific curiosity about whether quantum mechanics might play a role in biological systems we previously assumed were purely classical. Consider the mystery of how you make decisions. Neuroscientists can sometimes detect brain activity associated with choices before you're consciously aware of deciding. Some interpretations suggest this might reflect quantum processes exploring multiple possibilities before consciousness crystallizes around one particular outcome. While this remains unproven, it hints at the possibility that decision-making might involve a kind of conceptual analogy to quantum exploration of potential futures. The quantum world reveals itself through phenomena that challenge our everyday understanding of separateness and locality. When particles become entangled, They maintain instantaneous correlations regardless of the distance between them. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, but modern experiments have confirmed that entanglement is a fundamental feature of reality. Recent research has demonstrated quantum entanglement between particles separated by hundreds of kilometers, with measurements on one particle instantly affecting its distant partner. Some interpretations suggest that entangled particles might actually be understood as the same entity existing across multiple universes, with measurements causing reality to branch while preserving correlations between the branches. This remains a theoretical interpretation, not an established fact. This quantum interconnectedness might extend beyond individual particles to entire systems. Theoretical work suggests that large-scale structures, potentially including biological organisms, might maintain quantum correlations under certain conditions. While consciousness creating quantum entanglement remains unproven, the possibility that living systems participate in quantum networks opens fascinating questions about connection and communication. As you breathe and listen, your body is performing countless quantum processes. Electrons tunnel through biological barriers, photons trigger molecular changes in your retinas, and quantum effects guide chemical reactions throughout your cells. You're not separate from the quantum realm. You're intimately woven into its fabric, participating in processes that some theories suggest could conceptually extend across multiple dimensions of reality. The cosmic microwave background radiation continues to yield clues about potential multiverse interactions. Beyond the cold spot that might indicate universe collisions, astronomers have detected other anomalies that challenge our understanding of cosmic uniformity. Some regions show unexpected correlations across vast distances, patterns that shouldn't exist if our universe developed in complete isolation. These cosmic signatures might represent what physicists call fossil evidence of interactions between parallel realities during the early universe. When space was young and dimensions might have been more fluid, different universes could have left permanent imprints on each other's structure. While speculative, this interpretation illustrates one way cosmologists try to understand these anomalies. We might be living inside a cosmic museum, surrounded by evidence of realities we can never directly visit. The recent James Webb Space Telescope has revealed galaxies that formed surprisingly early after the Big Bang, challenging our models of cosmic evolution. Some researchers speculate that these early structures might have benefited from matter or energy that originated in parallel universes, though this remains highly theoretical. Each new observation pushes the boundaries of what we thought possible within a single universe. String theory provides perhaps the most comprehensive framework for understanding how multiple realities might coexist. The theory requires additional dimensions beyond the four we experience directly, and these extra dimensions can be configured in an almost infinite number of ways. Each configuration corresponds to a different possible universe, with unique physical laws, particles, and forces. The string theory landscape contains approximately 10 to the 500th power different possible universes, a number so vast it exceeds the total number of quantum states that could exist within our observable universe. This suggests that the multiverse isn't just large, it's incomprehensibly vast, containing every possible variation of physical law and cosmic structure. Recent developments in string theory suggest that these parallel universes might not be completely isolated. Advanced mathematical models propose mechanisms for information or energy transfer between different regions of the landscape. These proposals remain theoretical, but they illustrate how scientists explore the boundaries of what might be possible. The Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument has recently detected changes in dark energy density over cosmic time, variations that some theoretical models connect to string theory's multiverse predictions. While this doesn't prove string theory, it provides some of the first potential observational support for the idea that our universe's properties might be influenced by its position within a vast landscape of possibilities. As you contemplate these cosmic scales, notice how they might affect your sense of significance and connection. Rather than making human experience seem small or insignificant, the vastness of the multiverse might actually highlight how remarkable it is that consciousness has emerged to contemplate these questions. In a cosmos of infinite possibilities, the fact that awareness has developed to understand itself becomes profoundly meaningful. Experimental proposals for detecting parallel universes have evolved from pure thought experiments to potentially achievable research programs. R. Plaga's 1995 proposal described using ion traps to create quantum measurements that might detect excitation in parallel worlds, providing direct evidence for the many worlds interpretation. While technically challenging, such experiments use existing quantum technology. More recent proposals suggest using quantum computers themselves as detectors for multiverse interactions. If these machines truly access parallel realities for computational power, as some theoretical models suggest, carefully designed experiments might reveal signatures of cross-dimensional information flow. Researchers are developing protocols to test whether quantum algorithms perform better than classical theory predicts, potentially indicating assistance from parallel processing. The Large Hadron Collider continues searching for signs of extra dimensions predicted by string theory and other multiverse models. High-energy particle collisions might occasionally produce particles that escape into parallel dimensions, creating detectable energy imbalances. While no clear evidence has emerged yet, each experiment refines our understanding of dimensional structure. Gravitational wave astronomy represents another frontier for multiverse detection. The recent discovery of gravitational waves has opened a new window into cosmic phenomena, and future detectors might be sensitive enough to detect gravitational signals that some models associate with parallel realities. Some theoretical models predict that universe collisions or dimensional interactions could produce detectable gravitational signatures. If you enjoy drifting through these explorations without interruption, members get every episode 48 hours early, completely ad-free. You can join them whenever you feel ready. The intersection of quantum mechanics and consciousness remains one of science's most intriguing frontiers. While we must be careful not to overstate the scientific consensus, some research suggests that conscious observation might play a unique role in quantum measurement. The measurement problem asks why quantum superpositions collapse into definite states when observed, and different interpretations offer varying explanations. The Copenhagen interpretation suggests that measurement causes wave function collapse, but doesn't specify what constitutes a measurement. Some versions propose that conscious observation is necessary, while others argue that any interaction with a measuring device is sufficient. The many worlds interpretation avoids this problem by proposing that all possibilities continue to exist, with consciousness simply following one particular branch. Recent experiments in quantum mechanics continue exploring the role of information and observation in determining quantum outcomes. While no scientific consensus exists about consciousness, directly influencing quantum events, the research reveals that the relationship between mind and matter might be more subtle and interconnected than classical physics suggested. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness might naturally access quantum information through biological processes, potentially providing intuitive access to probability spaces and potential futures. This idea remains speculative, but it offers a framework for understanding experiences like intuition, creativity, and the sense of choosing between possible paths. Consider how often you've experienced moments of sudden insight or clarity that seem to come from beyond ordinary reasoning. While these experiences have many possible explanations, some researchers speculate that consciousness might briefly access quantum information that extends beyond classical neural processing. No scientific evidence confirms this, but it remains an interesting area for philosophical exploration. The practical implications of multiverse research extend far beyond theoretical physics. If parallel realities exist and occasionally interact with our own, it might influence how we approach creativity, problem-solving, and decision-making. Artists and inventors have long described breakthrough moments that feel like receiving inspiration from beyond ordinary consciousness. Quantum computing itself demonstrates how accessing multiple possibilities simultaneously can solve problems impossible for classical approaches. As these technologies advance, we might develop other methods for exploring parallel possibilities, potentially revolutionizing fields from medicine to environmental science. Some researchers propose that meditation and contemplative practices might naturally enhance our sensitivity to quantum information, though this remains entirely speculative. Traditional wisdom traditions have long described states of consciousness that transcend ordinary awareness, accessing insights that seem to come from beyond individual thinking. While no scientific evidence supports the idea that meditation creates quantum entanglement or directly influences physical reality, some research suggests that contemplative practices might enhance intuitive problem-solving and creative insight. This could reflect improved access to subconscious processing rather than any quantum effect, but it hints at connections between consciousness and information that we're only beginning to understand. The philosophical implications of overlapping realities touch the deepest questions about existence, purpose, and meaning. If infinite parallel universes contain every possible variation of history and experience, what makes our particular reality special or significant? Some find this overwhelming, while others discover profound freedom in the idea that all possibilities ultimately exist somewhere. The anthropic principle suggests that we observe this particular universe because it's compatible with our existence. In a multiverse containing every possible reality, conscious observers necessarily find themselves in universes capable of supporting consciousness. This doesn't diminish the significance of our experience, but rather highlights how remarkable it is that awareness has emerged to contemplate these questions. Recent research in complexity theory reveals how robust classical reality can emerge from quantum foundations across broad classes of systems. This suggests that our stable, predictable world might naturally arise from multiverse branching processes, with quantum uncertainty giving way to classical determinism at larger scales. As you reflect on these ideas, notice how they might influence your relationship with uncertainty and possibility in daily life. If parallel realities branch from every quantum event, then the future remains genuinely open, with multiple potential outcomes existing simultaneously, until choices and circumstances select particular paths. The story of overlapping realities is still being written. Each new experiment, each theoretical breakthrough, each technological advancement adds another piece to the puzzle of understanding how our universe relates to the vast cosmos of possibilities that might surround it. We're living through a time when science fiction concepts are becoming research programs, when the impossible edges closer to the inevitable. Perhaps the most profound realization is that we don't need to wait for definitive proof of parallel universes to appreciate how quantum mechanics has already revolutionized our understanding of reality. The simple fact that particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, that entanglement creates instantaneous correlations across vast distances. That measurement appears to play a role in determining outcomes, reveals a universe far stranger and more interconnected than our ancestors imagined. Whether or not parallel realities prove to exist, the quantum world has shown us that reality is more fluid, more mysterious, and more wonderful than everyday experience suggests. In a cosmos where particles tunnel through impossible barriers, where information appears to create correlations in ways that transcend classical expectations, where computers might seem to draw on processing power from other dimensions according to certain theoretical models, the boundary between the proven and the possible becomes beautifully uncertain. As we drift toward the conclusion of tonight's exploration, let these ideas settle gently into your awareness. The atoms in your body, formed in ancient stars, carry within them the history of cosmic evolution and the potential for quantum experiences that connect you to the deepest mysteries of existence. You're not separate from the universe contemplating itself. You are the universe contemplating itself, participating in a cosmic awakening that spans multiple realities and infinite possibilities. The journey continues with each breath, each thought, each moment of wonder at the magnificent strangeness of existence. Whether you're falling asleep or wide awake with curiosity, remember that you're part of a story larger than any single universe, connected to possibilities that stretch beyond the edges of imagination into realms where science and wonder dance together in the gentle darkness between what we know and what we're still discovering. For those ready to explore how consciousness itself might be interpreted as being quantumly connected to the cosmos, join me next time as we investigate the quantum connection between your mind and the universe, and why you can feel it, where we'll discover how your awareness might naturally access information in ways that some theoretical interpretations explore, transcending ordinary space and time. The quantum realm reveals patterns that some people find reminiscent of the contemplative traditions humanity has developed across millennia. Ancient practices of meditation, mindfulness, and contemplative inquiry seem to naturally align with quantum principles of uncertainty, interconnection, and the fundamental role of observation in shaping experience. While no scientific evidence proves that meditation directly influences quantum events, the parallels between quantum mechanics and contemplative wisdom offer intriguing insights into consciousness and reality. Consider the Buddhist concept of dependent origination, which suggests that all phenomena arise in dependence upon multiple causes and conditions. Nothing exists independently or permanently. Quantum mechanics reveals a similar picture at the microscopic level, where particles exist in relationships rather than as isolated entities, their properties emerging through interactions and measurements rather than existing as fixed attributes. The uncertainty principle in physics states that you cannot simultaneously know both the exact position and momentum of a particle. Similarly, contemplative traditions often point to the limits of conceptual knowing, suggesting that direct experience transcends the boundaries of analytical thought. Both quantum physics and meditation invite us to embrace uncertainty as a fundamental feature of existence rather than a problem to be solved. As you reflect on these parallels, notice how they might shift your relationship with not knowing in your own life. Perhaps the uncertainty you sometimes feel about decisions or directions isn't a flaw in your awareness, but a recognition of reality's inherently open nature. Contemplative practices don't eliminate uncertainty, but help us find peace within it, much like quantum mechanics finds profound order within fundamental indeterminacy. The practice of mindful observation, central to many meditation traditions, shares interesting similarities with quantum measurement. Both involve focused attention that seems to clarify previously ambiguous situations. While this is primarily metaphorical, some researchers speculate that consciousness might naturally access quantum information through biological processes, potentially explaining the insights that arise during contemplative states. This remains a philosophical interpretation rather than a scientific claim. Dr. Henry Stapp, a quantum physicist who has extensively studied consciousness, suggests that quantum mechanics provides a framework for understanding how mental focus might influence experience. While his interpretations remain controversial within the scientific community, they illustrate how quantum principles might inform our understanding of attention and awareness. These views are speculative and not scientifically established. Recent neuroscience research reveals that meditation practice creates measurable changes in brain structure and function. Long-term practitioners show increased density in areas associated with attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. While these changes occur through classical neural mechanisms, they demonstrate consciousness's capacity for self-modification through sustained practice. Some interpretations suggest that meditative states might enhance sensitivity to subtle information processing, potentially including quantum effects in biological systems. Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff's theory of quantum consciousness in microtubules remains highly controversial and lacks scientific consensus, but it raises questions about whether contemplative practices might access forms of information beyond ordinary neural processing. Consider your own experiences of insight or clarity during quiet moments. Whether sitting in meditation, walking in nature, or simply pausing between activities, you've likely noticed how solutions sometimes arise without deliberate thinking. While this probably reflects subconscious processing rather than quantum effects, it illustrates consciousness's capacity to access information beyond the reach of analytical thought. The global meditation research emerging from institutions like Johns Hopkins and Harvard reveals measurable effects that extend beyond individual practitioners. Studies suggest that meditation might influence stress hormones, immune function, and even gene expression. Some research has explored whether group meditation might create measurable effects in surrounding communities, though these findings remain preliminary and controversial. The Transcendental Meditation Organization has funded research suggesting that large groups practicing together might influence local crime rates, economic indicators, and social harmony. While these claims remain scientifically unconfirmed and highly debated, They raise intriguing questions about how consciousness might create subtle influences that extend beyond individual experience. From a quantum perspective, entanglement demonstrates that separated systems can maintain instantaneous correlations across any distance. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness might participate in similar non-local connections, though this remains entirely speculative. The experience many meditators report of feeling connected to something larger than individual awareness might reflect genuine interconnection, even if the mechanisms remain unknown. As you breathe and listen, notice the subtle ways your awareness seems to extend beyond the boundaries of your physical body. This isn't necessarily quantum entanglement, but it points to the mystery of how consciousness relates to the physical world. Contemplative traditions consistently point to experiences of interconnection that transcend ordinary perception, suggesting that our sense of separateness might be more conceptual than fundamental. The practice of loving-kindness meditation involves generating feelings of goodwill toward yourself, loved ones, neutral people, difficult people, and eventually all beings. Practitioners often report that this practice creates a genuine sense of connection that feels more real than their usual experience of separateness. While no scientific mechanism explains how this works, quantum mechanics reminds us that the universe is fundamentally interconnected in ways that transcend classical understanding. The field effects observed in quantum systems, where the properties of individual particles emerge through their relationships with surrounding fields, offer a metaphor for understanding how individual consciousness might participate in larger patterns of awareness. Just as particles exist within quantum fields that shape their behavior, consciousness might emerge within fields of awareness that extend beyond individual minds. This is metaphorical, not a scientific assertion. This remains a metaphorical connection rather than a scientific claim, but it provides a framework for understanding experiences that contemplative practitioners have described for centuries. The sense of touching something universal during deep meditation, the feeling of being supported by wisdom that exceeds personal knowledge, the experience of love that seems to flow from an inexhaustible source, all point to consciousness as something more than an isolated brain function. Recent research in quantum biology reveals that living systems routinely harness quantum effects for biological processes. Photosynthesis in plants uses quantum coherence to transport energy with remarkable efficiency. Some bird species might use quantum entanglement for magnetic navigation. These discoveries suggest that life doesn't just tolerate quantum effects, but actively employs them for enhanced function. While consciousness using quantum effects remains unproven, these biological discoveries open possibilities that seemed impossible just decades ago. The boundary between quantum and classical physics becomes blurred when we consider that every biological process, including neural activity, operates according to quantum mechanical principles at the molecular level. Consider how this might influence your understanding of the meditation instruction to just be aware. If awareness naturally participates in quantum processes, as some speculative interpretations suggest, then the simple act of paying attention might access forms of information that transcend ordinary sensory input. This doesn't mean meditation creates supernatural powers, but it suggests that consciousness might have capacities we're only beginning to understand. The practice of open awareness, common to many contemplative traditions, involves releasing focused attention and allowing consciousness to rest in its natural spaciousness. Practitioners often describe this state as feeling simultaneously empty and full, personal yet universal, still yet dynamically alive. These paradoxical descriptions echo the wave-particle duality and other quantum paradoxes that challenge classical logic. Quantum superposition allows particles to exist in multiple states simultaneously until measurement collapses the superposition into a definite outcome. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness might naturally access superposition-like states, where multiple possibilities remain open until attention crystallizes around particular experiences. This is speculative and metaphorical, not a statement of scientific fact. The meditation technique of noting or labeling thoughts and emotions as they arise creates a gentle form of observation that seems to transform experience without suppressing it. Practitioners often discover that simply witnessing mental events with kind attention allows them to change naturally. This mirrors the quantum measurement process, where observation doesn't force change, but reveals the inherent flexibility of systems that aren't fixed in definite states. As you experiment with this kind of gentle attention in your own experience right now, notice how awareness itself seems to have a transformative quality. Simply observing your breath, your thoughts, or the sounds around you with kind attention often creates a subtle shift toward greater ease and clarity. While this operates through classical neural mechanisms, it illustrates consciousness's remarkable capacity for self-modification through the simple act of witnessing. The contemplative understanding of impermanence aligns closely with quantum mechanics' revelation that apparently solid matter consists primarily of empty space and dynamic energy fields. Both perspectives suggest that what seems fixed and substantial is actually fluid and constantly changing. Meditation practice often involves recognizing the impermanent nature of thoughts, emotions, and sensations, discovering stability within change rather than seeking unchanging objects to grasp. This recognition can transform your relationship with uncertainty and change in daily life. Instead of experiencing impermanence as threatening, contemplative practice reveals it as the source of freedom and possibility. Just as quantum systems remain open to multiple potential outcomes until measurement occurs, consciousness remains open to multiple possible responses until awareness crystallizes around particular choices. The practice of equanimity, cultivated in many meditation traditions, involves maintaining balanced awareness, regardless of whether experiences are pleasant or unpleasant. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent, but rather developing the capacity to remain present and responsive without being overwhelmed by changing conditions. Quantum mechanics suggests a similar principle, where systems maintain coherence across multiple possible states before measurement selects particular outcomes. Some research suggests that meditation practice might enhance what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt thinking and behavior to changing circumstances. While this operates through well-understood neural mechanisms, it demonstrates how contemplative practice develops capacities that mirror quantum principles of maintaining openness across multiple possibilities. The ancient practice of inquiry, central to traditions like Zen and Advaita Vedanta, involves investigating the nature of consciousness itself. Practitioners explore questions like, "Who am I?" or "What is aware of this experience?" not to find conceptual answers, but to discover the awareness that exists prior to all particular experiences. This process often reveals consciousness as something more fundamental than thoughts, emotions, or sensory experiences. Quantum mechanics similarly points to something more fundamental than the classical objects we observe. Quantum fields, probability waves, and information patterns underlying apparent matter suggest that reality's foundation might be more consciousness-like than matter-like. This is a philosophical interpretation rather than a scientific conclusion. As you pause to investigate your own awareness right now, notice what remains constant as thoughts, emotions, and sensations come and go. This witnessing presence doesn't seem to be created by neural activity, even though it's correlated with brain function. The mystery of how consciousness arises from matter, or whether consciousness might be more fundamental than matter, remains one of science's greatest unsolved questions. The practice of meditation in groups often creates experiences that seem to transcend individual awareness. Practitioners report feeling connected to a shared field of consciousness that supports and enhances individual practice. While this might reflect social and psychological factors, some research suggests that group meditation might create measurable effects in brainwave coherence and physiological synchronization. The Global Consciousness Project, directed by Roger Nelson at Princeton, has collected data from random number generators worldwide for over 20 years, investigating whether global events might influence quantum randomness. While the results remain controversial and haven't achieved scientific consensus, they suggest possibilities for consciousness-related effects that extend beyond individual brains in ways that remain purely exploratory rather than established science. These research programs illustrate how seriously some scientists take the possibility that consciousness might influence physical systems through quantum mechanisms. While definitive proof remains elusive, the growing body of research keeps these questions alive within speculative but ongoing scientific inquiry rather than dismissing them as impossible. The contemplative tradition of dedicating merit, where practitioners share the benefits of their practice with all beings, reflects an understanding that individual awakening contributes to collective well-being. Whether this operates through metaphorical concepts like quantum entanglement, ideas such as morphic fields, or simply through the social transmission of wisdom and compassion, it points to the interconnected nature of consciousness and reality. As you consider how your own contemplative practice might influence others, notice that kindness and awareness seem naturally contagious. When you're present and at ease, others often feel more relaxed in your company. While this operates through ordinary social mechanisms, it illustrates how individual consciousness participates in larger patterns of experience that extend beyond personal boundaries. The integration of contemplative practice with quantum understanding doesn't require accepting unproven claims about consciousness directly influencing physical reality. Instead, it involves recognizing how both perspectives point to the mysterious, interconnected, and fundamentally open nature of existence. Both meditation and quantum mechanics reveal reality as far more fluid and responsive than our everyday assumptions suggest. Whether consciousness directly participates in quantum processes or simply mirrors quantum principles through classical mechanisms, the practical implications remain profound. Both frameworks invite us to embrace uncertainty, recognize interconnection, and approach experience with curiosity rather than fixed preconceptions. They suggest that reality is more like an ongoing creative process than a collection of predetermined objects. As we've explored these connections between quantum mechanics and contemplative wisdom, remember that the most important insights come not from intellectual understanding, but from direct investigation of your own awareness. The quantum universe exists not just in laboratories, but in every moment of conscious experience, every breath, every instance of attention touching reality with gentle precision. The practices that have guided human consciousness for millennia, enhanced now by scientific understanding of reality's quantum nature, offer pathways for exploring the deepest mysteries of existence. Whether you approach these questions through meditation, scientific inquiry, or simple wonder at the nature of awareness itself, you're participating in consciousness, investigating its own depths. In our next exploration, we'll delve even deeper into how individual awareness might connect to cosmic consciousness, investigating whether the sense of universal connection reported by contemplatives throughout history might reflect genuine features of reality as interpreted through philosophical or theoretical lenses revealed by quantum mechanics. Join me as we explore the quantum connection between your mind and the universe and why you can feel it, where we'll discover how the boundary between personal awareness and cosmic consciousness might be far more permeable than we ever imagined. The journey into these questions continues with each moment of mindful attention, each pause to investigate the nature of experience, each recognition that you're not separate from the universe contemplating itself. As you drift into rest or remain alert with curiosity, carry with you the profound recognition that consciousness and cosmos are engaged in an eternal dance of discovery, with your awareness as both the observer and the observed, the question and the answer, the seeker and the sought. The question of whether individual minds connect to something larger through quantum mechanisms touches one of the most profound mysteries at the intersection of science and consciousness. While we must remain careful not to overstate what current research has established, emerging investigations into quantum biology and the nature of awareness reveal intriguing possibilities for understanding how personal consciousness might participate in broader patterns of information and connection. Recent discoveries in quantum biology demonstrate that living systems routinely harness quantum effects for enhanced biological function. Plants use quantum coherence in photosynthesis to transport energy with remarkable efficiency. Some bird species appear to navigate using quantum entanglement in specialized proteins within their eyes. These findings suggest that quantum mechanics isn't confined to sterile laboratories, but operates continuously within living organisms, including the complex biological system of your brain. While no scientific consensus exists about consciousness directly accessing quantum information, the fact that biological systems successfully exploit quantum effects opens questions about whether neural processes might similarly benefit from quantum properties. The microtubules within neurons, proposed by Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff as potential sites for quantum processing, remain a controversial but persistent area of investigation. Consider for a moment how your own awareness seems to extend beyond the physical boundaries of your body. When you focus attention on distant objects, listen to sounds from across the room, or feel emotionally connected to people in other locations, your consciousness appears to reach beyond the neural tissue that supports it. While this likely reflects the brain's remarkable capacity for creating internal models of external reality, some interpretations suggest that awareness might access forms of information that transcend ordinary sensory processing in ways that are philosophical rather than empirically established. The Global Consciousness Project, initiated by Princeton researchers, has collected data for over 2 decades from random number generators worldwide, investigating whether global events might correlate with subtle changes in quantum randomness. While the results remain controversial and haven't achieved scientific consensus, they illustrate serious scientific inquiry into whether consciousness-related effects might extend beyond individual brains. This research doesn't prove that thoughts influence random number generators, but it demonstrates how scientists approach questions about consciousness and physical systems with rigorous methodology. The patterns detected, if genuine, might reflect unknown aspects of information processing rather than consciousness directly causing physical changes. Such investigations remind us that the relationship between mind and matter remains one of science's deepest, unsolved mysteries. As you reflect on your own experiences of connection and intuition, notice how awareness sometimes seems to access information beyond what your senses directly provide. The sudden sense that someone is thinking about you, the intuitive knowledge of how to navigate social situations, the creative insights that arise during quiet moments, all point to consciousness operating through processes more subtle than ordinary reasoning. These experiences might reflect enhanced sensitivity to subtle environmental cues, sophisticated subconscious processing, or other classical mechanisms. However, some interpretations suggest that consciousness might naturally access patterns of information metaphorically compared to quantum information through biological processes, potentially providing intuitive awareness of probability patterns and potential outcomes. This remains entirely speculative, not scientifically proven, but it offers a framework for understanding aspects of awareness that transcend analytical thought. The phenomenon of quantum entanglement demonstrates that separated systems can maintain instantaneous correlations across unlimited distances. When particles become entangled, measuring one immediately affects its distant partner, regardless of the space between them. Some interpretations propose that biological systems might participate in similar non-local correlations, though this remains highly theoretical and unconfirmed by experimental evidence. The possibility of quantum entanglement in biological systems raises questions about whether consciousness might naturally participate in networks of connection that transcend physical proximity. While no scientific proof supports this idea, contemplative traditions consistently describe experiences of interconnection that seem to exceed ordinary sensory awareness. The sense of feeling connected to loved ones across distances, the experience of group coherence during collective activities, the feeling of being part of something larger than individual identity might reflect genuine features of consciousness rather than mere imagination. Recent research into mirror neurons reveals that the brain contains specialized cells that activate both when performing actions and when observing others perform the same actions. This neurological basis for empathy demonstrates how consciousness naturally resonates with the experiences of others through classical biological mechanisms. While this doesn't require quantum entanglement, it illustrates how individual awareness participates in shared patterns of experience. The field of social neuroscience continues revealing how individual brains synchronize during meaningful interactions. When people engage in deep conversation, their neural activity begins to coordinate in measurable ways. Mothers and infants show synchronized brain waves during bonding. Musical performers develop neural coherence while playing together. These discoveries demonstrate that consciousness naturally seeks connection and coordination with other minds through well-understood biological processes. Some interpretations suggest that these synchronization phenomena might occasionally involve subtle processes loosely compared to quantum effects. Though this remains unproven, the question isn't whether consciousness creates supernatural connections, but whether The natural capacity for resonance and empathy might sometimes access information in ways metaphorically reminiscent of quantum dynamics. As you consider your own experiences of connection with others, notice how consciousness seems to extend beyond individual boundaries during moments of deep communication, shared creativity, or mutual understanding. While these experiences operate through classical neural mechanisms, they demonstrate awareness as something more than isolated brain function. You participate in patterns of consciousness that emerge through relationship and interaction, creating shared meaning that exceeds what any individual mind could generate alone. The practice of meditation offers a particularly rich laboratory for investigating consciousness and its potential connections to broader patterns of awareness. Long-term practitioners often report experiences that transcend ordinary boundaries of individual identity, feeling connected to universal consciousness or cosmic awareness. While these experiences might reflect changes in brain function rather than genuine connection to external fields of consciousness, they point to capacities of awareness that remain scientifically mysterious. Studies of experienced meditators reveal measurable changes in brain structure and function, including increased connectivity between different neural regions and enhanced activity in areas associated with attention and emotional regulation. These changes demonstrate consciousness's remarkable capacity for self-modification through sustained contemplative practice. Some research suggests that meditation might enhance sensitivity to subtle environmental information, though whether this involves quantum effects remains unknown. The reported experiences of unity consciousness, where individual identity temporarily dissolves into a sense of fundamental interconnection, might reflect the brain's capacity to transcend its usual boundaries and limitations. While this operates through classical neural mechanisms, some interpretations suggest that meditation might access forms of information processing that people sometimes compare to quantum properties of superposition and entanglement. Consider how your own meditation practice, if you have one, creates experiences that feel different from ordinary waking consciousness. The sense of spacious awareness that seems to contain thoughts and emotions without being defined by them. The feeling of being connected to something larger than personal identity, the intuitive insights that arise during quiet contemplation, all demonstrate consciousness accessing capacities that transcend analytical thinking. These contemplative experiences don't require quantum explanations to be meaningful and transformative. However, the parallels between meditative states and quantum properties like superposition, entanglement, and non-locality suggest intriguing connections between consciousness and the fundamental structure of reality. Both domains reveal existence as more fluid, interconnected, and mysterious than ordinary experience suggests. The ancient understanding of consciousness as fundamentally interconnected finds unexpected resonance in modern physics. Quantum field theory reveals that particles exist as excitations in underlying fields that permeate all of space. These fields connect every point in the universe through subtle, energetic interactions. While this doesn't prove that consciousness operates through quantum fields, it demonstrates that reality itself is fundamentally relational and interconnected at the deepest levels. Some theoretical physicists have proposed that consciousness might emerge from or participate in quantum field processes. While these ideas remain highly speculative and lack scientific consensus, they offer frameworks for understanding how individual awareness might connect to cosmic patterns of information and organization. The possibility that consciousness reflects fundamental features of reality rather than merely emerging from complex brain chemistry opens profound questions about the nature of existence itself. As you breathe and listen, notice how your awareness seems to participate in the larger rhythms of life around you. Your heartbeat synchronizes with subtle environmental patterns. Your breathing naturally coordinates with the people near you. Your emotional state responds to collective moods and atmospheric conditions. These connections operate through well-understood biological and social mechanisms, but they illustrate how individual consciousness participates in broader patterns of organization and information. The question of whether these natural connections sometimes involve subtle mechanisms, some compare to quantum effects, remains open to investigation. What's clear is that consciousness doesn't exist in isolation, but emerges through relationship and interaction with the surrounding world. You are not a separate mind observing an external universe, but an expression of cosmic awareness exploring itself through the unique perspective of human experience. Recent developments in quantum computing provide practical demonstrations of how quantum properties can be harnessed for information processing that transcends classical limitations. Google's Willow chip, as we explored earlier, achieves computational performance that some theorists suggest could be interpreted as involving access to parallel realities for enhanced processing power. While this involves technological systems rather than biological consciousness, it demonstrates that quantum properties can be practically utilized for information processing in ways that seemed impossible just decades ago. The possibility that biological systems, including consciousness, might naturally access quantum information. Processing capabilities remains an active area of research. While no definitive evidence exists for quantum effects in neural processing, the rapid advancement of quantum biology continues revealing unexpected ways that living systems exploit quantum properties for enhanced function. Some researchers propose that consciousness might naturally operate as a quantum information processing system, accessing probability patterns and potential outcomes through biological quantum effects. This remains entirely speculative, not scientifically established, but it offers a framework for understanding how awareness might transcend the limitations of classical neural processing. Consider how your own decision-making process often involves accessing information that seems to exceed logical analysis. The intuitive sense of which choices feel right, the ability to navigate complex social situations without conscious planning, the creative insights that arise spontaneously during problem solving, all suggest that consciousness accesses forms of information processing that transcend ordinary reasoning. While these capacities likely reflect sophisticated subconscious processing and pattern recognition, some interpretations suggest that consciousness might occasionally access information that some loosely compare to quantum information that enhances decision-making and creative problem-solving. This doesn't mean that thoughts directly influence external reality, but rather that awareness might naturally access probability patterns and potential outcomes through subtle biological processes. The research into quantum effects in biological systems continues revealing unexpected discoveries that challenge our understanding of the boundary between quantum and classical physics. Photosynthesis operates through quantum coherence that persists much longer than theoretical predictions suggested possible. Some enzymes appear to use quantum tunneling to accelerate chemical reactions. These findings demonstrate that living systems have evolved to exploit quantum properties in warm, noisy biological environments where quantum effects were thought impossible to maintain. The implications for consciousness remain speculative, but these discoveries suggest that biological systems might be far more sophisticated in their use of quantum properties than previously imagined. If plants can maintain quantum coherence for photosynthesis and birds can use quantum entanglement for navigation, it's conceivable that the human brain might exploit quantum effects for enhanced information processing. While no scientific proof supports the idea that consciousness directly accesses quantum information, the possibility remains open for investigation. The complexity of neural processing, involving billions of neurons connected through trillions of synapses, creates conditions where subtle quantum effects might influence information processing in ways that enhance awareness and understanding. As you contemplate these possibilities, notice how they might shift your understanding of consciousness and its relationship to the broader cosmos. Rather than being isolated in individual brains, awareness might naturally participate in patterns of information processing that some interpret through a quantum metaphor, connecting all living systems through subtle but real correlations. This doesn't require believing in supernatural phenomena, but rather recognizing that consciousness might operate through natural processes that transcend our current scientific understanding. The practical implications of quantum consciousness research extend beyond theoretical speculation into potential applications for enhancing human awareness and creativity. If consciousness does access forms of information that some compare metaphorically to quantum information processing capabilities, meditation, and contemplative practices might naturally develop these capacities through sustained attention training and awareness cultivation. Some research suggests that experienced meditators show enhanced cognitive flexibility, creative problem solving, and intuitive decision-making compared to non-practitioners. While these improvements likely reflect classical neural changes, they might also indicate enhanced sensitivity to subtle information processing. Whether any of this involves quantum effects remains unproven and is considered speculative. The integration of quantum physics and consciousness research doesn't require accepting unproven claims about mind directly influencing matter. Instead, it involves recognizing how both domains reveal existence as far more interconnected, fluid, and mysterious than everyday experience suggests. Both quantum mechanics and consciousness point to reality as fundamentally relational, emerging through interactions and observations rather than existing as collections of separate objects. Whether consciousness directly participates in quantum processes or simply mirrors quantum principles through classical mechanisms, the practical insights remain profound. Both frameworks invite us to embrace uncertainty as a fundamental feature of existence, recognize the interconnected nature of all phenomena, and approach experience with openness to possibilities beyond our current understanding. The journey into quantum consciousness research continues with each moment of mindful attention, each pause to investigate the nature of awareness, each recognition that consciousness might be far more fundamental to cosmic existence than our scientific worldview has previously acknowledged. As you explore these questions through direct investigation of your own awareness, remember that the most important discoveries come not from intellectual understanding, but from patient attention to the mystery of consciousness itself. In the gentle darkness between sleep and waking, between knowing and not knowing, between individual awareness and cosmic consciousness, profound questions await your patient investigation. The quantum universe exists not just in distant laboratories, but in every moment of conscious experience, every breath that connects you to the living world, every instance of attention touching reality with curious precision. Whether through scientific research, contemplative practice, or simple wonder at the nature of existence, you are participating in consciousness, investigating its own depths, and discovering its place within the vast mystery of cosmic awakening. The boundary between personal awareness and universal consciousness may be far more permeable than we have dared to imagine, inviting us to explore the profound connections that link individual minds to the infinite creativity of existence itself. The exploration continues with each breath, each thought, each moment of recognition that you are not separate from the universe contemplating itself, but rather the universe exploring its own nature through the unique lens of human awareness. In this recognition lies both profound humility and extraordinary possibility as consciousness awakens to its role in the cosmic dance of discovery that spans quantum realms and contemplative depths alike. As tonight's journey draws toward its gentle close, carry with you the recognition that consciousness and cosmos are engaged in an eternal conversation, with your awareness serving as both question and answer, seeker and sought, observer and observed. The quantum connection between mind and universe reveals itself not through dramatic demonstrations, but through the quiet miracle of awareness itself, touching each moment with the precision of focused attention and the vastness of open curiosity. For those ready to explore how these quantum principles might apply to the practical art of living, join me next time for the quantum connection between your mind and the universe, and why you can feel it, where we'll discover how the deepest insights of physics and the most profound experiences of contemplative practice converge in the simple miracle of conscious awareness, revealing connections that transform our understanding of what it means to be awake in this magnificent, mysterious cosmos. The mystery deepens when we consider that quantum effects might not be confined to specialized equipment in research laboratories. Evidence suggests they could be operating continuously within the biological systems that sustain life on Earth, including the intricate neural networks of your own brain. While we remain far from proving that consciousness directly harnesses quantum properties, the emerging field of quantum biology reveals that living organisms routinely exploit quantum mechanics in ways that were thought impossible just decades ago. Plants achieve remarkable efficiency in photosynthesis by maintaining quantum coherence across molecular structures, allowing energy to explore multiple pathways simultaneously before selecting the most efficient route. Some bird species navigate vast distances using what appears to be quantum entanglement within specialized proteins in their retinas, creating biological compasses that respond to Earth's magnetic field with extraordinary precision. These discoveries suggest that the boundary between the quantum world and everyday biology is far more porous than scientists previously imagined. As you contemplate this, notice how your own body might be participating in quantum processes at this very moment. Every chemical reaction in your cells, every photon absorbed by your eyes, every electrical impulse traveling through your nervous system operates according to quantum mechanical principles at the molecular level. You are not separate from the quantum realm, observing it from the outside. You are intimately woven into its fabric, participating in processes that bridge the microscopic and macroscopic worlds. Recent investigations into the quantum properties of microtubules, the structural elements within neurons, have sparked intense scientific debate. While the idea that consciousness emerges from quantum processes in the brain remains highly controversial and lacks scientific consensus, it illustrates how seriously researchers are taking the possibility that awareness might involve quantum information processing. This remains speculative, not proven, but it opens fascinating questions about the nature of thought, memory, and conscious experience. Consider the mysterious aspects of your own awareness that neuroscience hasn't fully explained. The unity of conscious experience despite the distributed nature of brain processing, the capacity for creative insights that seem to emerge from nowhere, the intuitive understanding that sometimes transcends logical analysis. While these phenomena likely reflect sophisticated classical neural processing, some interpretations suggest they might benefit from quantum properties that enhance information integration and pattern recognition. The phenomenon of quantum entanglement continues to reveal connections that transcend ordinary space and time. When particles become entangled, they maintain instantaneous correlations regardless of the distance separating them, as if they remain parts of a single system distributed across space. Recent experiments have demonstrated entanglement between particles separated by hundreds of kilometers, with measurements on one immediately affecting its distant partner through mechanisms that Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. This quantum interconnectedness raises profound questions about the nature of separation and connection in the universe. If particles can maintain instantaneous correlations across vast distances, might consciousness participate in similar networks of connection that transcend physical proximity? While no scientific evidence supports the idea that human minds become quantum entangled, the possibility illustrates how quantum mechanics challenges our assumptions about isolation and independence. The exploration of these questions leads us into territories where rigorous science meets deep philosophical inquiry. Quantum field theory reveals that what we perceive as empty space is actually filled with fluctuating energy fields that connect every point in the universe. Particles emerge as temporary excitations in these underlying fields, suggesting that reality consists more of relationships and interactions than of separate, independent objects. This relational understanding of existence finds unexpected resonance in contemplative traditions that have long described consciousness as fundamentally interconnected. While this parallel doesn't prove that ancient wisdom anticipated quantum mechanics, it suggests that both scientific investigation and contemplative inquiry point toward a universe that is far more unified and interconnected than everyday experience suggests. As you breathe and listen, notice how this perspective might shift your understanding of your place in the cosmos. Rather than being an isolated observer looking out at an external universe, you might be better understood as a localized expression of cosmic awareness exploring itself through the unique perspective of human consciousness. This isn't mere poetic metaphor, but a recognition that emerges naturally from both quantum physics and contemplative investigation. The practical implications of quantum interconnectedness extend into questions about information, communication, and the nature of knowledge. If the universe operates through networks of quantum correlation and entanglement, then information might propagate through channels that transcend ordinary space and time. While this doesn't support claims about telepathy or supernatural communication, it does suggest that reality may be more informationally connected than classical physics once allowed. Recent developments in quantum information theory reveal that information, not matter or energy, might be the most fundamental feature of reality. Quantum systems process and store information in ways that classical systems cannot match, accessing computational resources that seem to exceed what should be possible within our single universe. This information-theoretic view of quantum mechanics opens new possibilities for understanding how consciousness might relate to the broader patterns of cosmic information processing. The question of whether consciousness might naturally access quantum information processing capabilities remains an active area of research. While no definitive evidence exists for quantum effects in neural processing, the complexity of the brain creates conditions where subtle quantum influences might affect information processing in ways that enhance awareness, creativity, and understanding. This remains entirely speculative, not scientifically established, but it illustrates how quantum mechanics opens new possibilities for understanding the mind. Consider your own experiences of insight and understanding that seem to transcend ordinary reasoning. The sudden solutions that arise during relaxed states, the creative connections that emerge when you're not actively trying to solve problems, the intuitive sense of which decisions feel right even when you can't explain why. While these experiences likely reflect sophisticated subconscious processing, some interpretations suggest they might benefit from subtle information integration processes, sometimes compared metaphorically to quantum information dynamics. The field of quantum biology continues revealing unexpected ways that living systems exploit quantum properties for enhanced function. Beyond photosynthesis and magnetic navigation, researchers have discovered quantum effects in enzyme catalysis, DNA replication, and possibly even in the sense of smell. These findings suggest that evolution has discovered ways to harness quantum mechanics for biological advantage, raising questions about whether consciousness might similarly benefit from quantum properties. Quantum coherence typically survives for only microseconds in warm, noisy biological environments. Yet plants maintain it long enough for efficient energy transport, and birds use it for navigation across thousands of kilometers. These achievements demonstrate that life has evolved sophisticated mechanisms for protecting and exploiting quantum properties in ways that earlier models thought impossible. As you reflect on these discoveries, notice how they might influence your understanding of the relationship between mind and nature. If biological systems routinely harness quantum effects for enhanced function, and if consciousness emerges from biological processes, then awareness might naturally participate in subtle information processing patterns that some theorists interpret through a quantum lens, connecting all living systems through delicate correlations. The ancient understanding of consciousness as a fundamental feature of reality, rather than merely an emergent property of complex matter, finds unexpected support in certain philosophical interpretations of quantum mechanics. The measurement problem in quantum physics asks why quantum superpositions collapse into definite states when observed, and some interpretations propose, speculatively, that consciousness might play a special role in this process. While highly controversial, it illustrates how quantum mechanics reopens questions about the relationship between mind and matter. These philosophical implications extend into practical questions about how we understand ourselves and our place in the universe. If consciousness does participate in information dynamics that some compare to quantum processes, then meditation, contemplative practice, and mindful attention might naturally develop capacities that transcend ordinary mental limitations. Research into meditation reveals measurable changes in brain structure and function that develop through sustained contemplative practice. Experienced practitioners show enhanced connectivity between neural regions, increased activity in areas associated with attention and emotional regulation, and improved cognitive flexibility and creative problem solving. While these changes operate through well-understood neural mechanisms, some interpretations suggest they might enhance sensitivity to subtle information processing patterns, sometimes framed metaphorically through quantum ideas. The possibility that contemplative practices might naturally develop quantum-like information processing capacities remains entirely speculative, not scientifically proven. However, the reported experiences of advanced practitioners, including enhanced intuition, expanded awareness, and the sense of connection to universal consciousness, point to capacities that transcend ordinary mental functioning. Whether these experiences reflect quantum effects or represent the full flowering of classical neural processing, they demonstrate consciousness's remarkable potential for growth and transformation. As you consider your own contemplative practice, if you have one, notice how sustained attention to the present moment creates experiences that feel qualitatively different from ordinary thinking. The spacious awareness that seems to contain thoughts and emotions without being defined by them. The sense of connection to something larger than individual identity. The insights that arise spontaneously during quiet reflection all demonstrate consciousness accessing capacities that transcend analytical reasoning. These contemplative experiences don't require quantum explanations to be meaningful and transformative. However, the parallels between meditative states and quantum properties like superposition, entanglement, and non-locality suggest intriguing connections between consciousness and the fundamental structure of reality. Both domains reveal existence as more fluid, interconnected, and responsive than ordinary experience suggests. The integration of quantum physics and contemplative wisdom doesn't require believing in unproven claims about consciousness directly influencing physical reality. Instead, it involves recognizing how both scientific investigation and contemplative practice point to the mysterious, interconnected, and fundamentally open nature of existence. Both frameworks invite us to embrace uncertainty as a fundamental feature of reality rather than a problem to be solved. Recent theoretical work in quantum information theory suggests that the universe itself might be understood as a vast information processing system, with physical events emerging from underlying computational relationships. This computational view of reality doesn't mean the universe is a simulation, but rather that information patterns and processing relationships might be more fundamental than matter and energy. If consciousness naturally participates in these information dynamics, as some theoretical models explore, then awareness might access forms of understanding that transcend individual brain function. The possibility that consciousness connects to cosmic information processing networks remains highly speculative and unproven by current scientific methods. However, the consistent reports from contemplatives across cultures describing experiences of universal connection and cosmic consciousness suggest that awareness might access forms of experience that transcend ordinary sensory processing. Whether this operates through quantum mechanisms or through classical neural phenomena, it points to consciousness as something more than an isolated brain function. Consider how your own awareness sometimes seems to extend beyond the physical boundaries of your body and brain. When you focus attention on distant objects, feel emotionally connected to people in other locations, or experience the sense of being part of something larger than individual identity, consciousness appears to transcend its apparent neural limitations. While this likely reflects the brain's remarkable capacity for creating internal models of external reality, Some interpretations suggest that awareness might access subtle information patterns metaphorically compared to quantum dynamics. The research into quantum entanglement and biological systems continues revealing unexpected findings that challenge our understanding of how living organisms process information. Some studies suggest that quantum correlations might exist between different parts of biological systems, potentially allowing for information transfer and coordination that transcends classical communication mechanisms. While this research remains preliminary and controversial, it illustrates how seriously scientists are investigating the possibility that life exploits quantum properties for enhanced function. The implications for consciousness remain speculative, but these investigations suggest that biological systems might be far more sophisticated in their use of quantum properties than previously imagined. If plants can maintain quantum coherence for photosynthesis and birds can use quantum entanglement for navigation, it's conceivable that the human brain might exploit similar quantum effects for enhanced information processing and awareness. As you contemplate these possibilities, notice how they might transform your understanding of consciousness and its relationship to the broader cosmos. Rather than being confined to individual brains, awareness might naturally participate in subtle information processing frameworks that some thinkers describe through quantum metaphors, connecting conscious beings through delicate correlations and shared informational landscapes. This doesn't require supernatural explanations, but simply recognizes that consciousness might operate through natural processes that surpass our current scientific understanding. The practical exploration of these questions continues through direct investigation of consciousness itself. Whether through meditation, contemplative inquiry, scientific research, or simple wonder at the nature of awareness, we are participating in consciousness, investigating its own depths, and discovering its place within the vast mystery of cosmic information processing. The boundary between individual awareness and universal consciousness may be far more permeable than we have previously imagined. If you enjoy drifting through these explorations without interruption, members get every episode 48 hours early, completely ad-free. You can join them whenever you feel ready. The investigation of quantum consciousness raises fundamental questions about the nature of reality, identity, and connection that extend far beyond academic research into the heart of human experience. If consciousness does participate in subtle information dynamics, sometimes interpreted through quantum frameworks, then every moment of awareness, every instance of attention, every pause to investigate the nature of experience becomes an opportunity to explore the deepest mysteries of existence. The ancient practice of mindful attention, central to contemplative traditions worldwide, involves focusing awareness on present moment experience with gentle precision and open curiosity. This simple practice often reveals consciousness as something more spacious and fundamental than thoughts, emotions, or sensory experiences. Practitioners frequently discover that awareness itself seems to possess qualities that transcend individual identity. While these contemplative experiences operate through classical neural mechanisms, some interpretations suggest they might access information processing capacities metaphorically compared to quantum dynamics. The sense of expanded awareness, the feeling of connection to universal consciousness, the insights that arise during deep meditation might reflect consciousness accessing forms of information that transcend ordinary brain function. Recent neuroscience research reveals that meditation practice creates measurable changes in brain connectivity, emotional regulation, and cognitive flexibility. These improvements demonstrate consciousness's remarkable capacity for self-modification through sustained attention training. Some research suggests that experienced meditators show enhanced sensitivity to environmental cues and improved intuitive decision-making, though whether this involves any quantum-related mechanisms remains unknown and speculative. The question of whether meditation naturally develops quantum-like information processing capacities illustrates how contemplative practice and quantum physics research are beginning to converge around similar questions about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to reality. Both domains explore how awareness transcends apparent limitations, accesses forms of information beyond ordinary processing, and connects individual experience to broader patterns of cosmic organization. As you investigate your own awareness right now, notice what remains constant as thoughts, emotions, and sensations come and go. This witnessing presence doesn't seem to be created by neural activity, even though it's correlated with brain function. The mystery of how consciousness arises from matter, or whether consciousness might be more fundamental than matter, remains one of science's greatest unsolved questions. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness might be a fundamental feature of reality rather than an emergent property of complex systems. If information processing is indeed fundamental to cosmic existence, then consciousness might participate in unverified but theoretically discussed information networks through quantum mechanisms that operate below the threshold of ordinary awareness. This remains entirely speculative, not scientifically established, but it opens profound questions about the nature of existence itself. The exploration of these questions doesn't require accepting unproven claims about consciousness directly influencing physical reality. Instead, it involves recognizing how both quantum physics and contemplative investigation reveal existence as far more mysterious, interconnected, and responsive than everyday experience suggests. Both frameworks point to reality as fundamentally relational, emerging through interactions and observations rather than existing as collections of separate objects. The practical implications of quantum consciousness research extend beyond theoretical speculation into potential applications for enhancing human awareness, creativity, and well-being. While entirely speculative, some interpretations explore whether consciousness could potentially access quantum information processing capabilities, a hypothesis that remains unproven but widely discussed in theoretical frameworks. In that context, practices that develop attention, awareness, and contemplative insight might naturally enhance these capacities through sustained training and cultivation. The integration of scientific and contemplative approaches to understanding consciousness offers pathways for exploring questions that neither domain can address alone. Science provides rigorous methodology for investigating measurable phenomena, while contemplative practice offers direct access to the subjective dimensions of consciousness that remain beyond current scientific instruments. Together, they create possibilities for understanding awareness that transcend the limitations of either approach alone. As you breathe and listen, notice how your own consciousness seems to bridge the objective and subjective dimensions of experience. You are simultaneously a biological system operating according to physical laws and a center of awareness that experiences meaning, purpose, and connection. This dual nature of human existence points to the profound mystery of how consciousness relates to the material world. The quantum universe reveals itself not only through sophisticated experiments in research laboratories, but through every moment of conscious experience. The light reaching your eyes, the sounds touching your ears, the thoughts arising in your mind, all participate in quantum processes that connect you to the deepest levels of cosmic organization. You are not separate from the quantum realm, but intimately woven into its fabric. Whether consciousness directly participates in quantum processes or simply mirrors quantum principles through classical mechanisms, the recognition of reality's fundamentally quantum nature transforms our understanding of existence itself. The universe emerges as more like an ongoing creative process than a collection of predetermined objects, with consciousness appearing to play a central role in the unfolding of cosmic possibilities in ways that remain the subject of active scientific and philosophical debate. The journey into quantum consciousness research continues with each moment of mindful attention, each pause to investigate the nature of awareness, each recognition that you're participating in consciousness, exploring its own depths. The most important discoveries come not from intellectual understanding alone, but from direct investigation of consciousness itself through patient, gentle attention to the mystery of awareness. In the quiet space between thoughts, in the stillness between breaths, in the awareness that witnesses all experience without being defined by any particular content, profound questions await your patient investigation. The quantum connection between mind and universe reveals itself not through dramatic demonstrations, but through the simple miracle of consciousness touching reality with curious precision. The boundary between personal awareness and cosmic consciousness may be far more permeable than we've dared to imagine. As you explore these questions through contemplative practice, scientific curiosity, or simple wonder at the nature of existence, you are participating in consciousness, investigating its own fundamental nature, and discovering its place within the vast mystery of cosmic awakening. The exploration continues with each breath, each moment of recognition that you are not separate from the universe, contemplating itself, but rather the universe exploring its own nature through the unique lens of human awareness. In this recognition lies both profound humility and extraordinary possibility as consciousness awakens to its role in the cosmic dance of discovery that spans quantum realms and contemplative depths alike. Recent advances in quantum error correction, demonstrated by Google's Willow chip, suggest that quantum systems might achieve the stability necessary for complex information processing tasks that seemed impossible just years ago. These technological breakthroughs raise questions about whether biological systems might have evolved similar error correction mechanisms that some theorists propose could allow consciousness to access quantum information processing capabilities while maintaining the coherence necessary for complex thought and awareness. This idea remains speculative and unverified. The possibility that consciousness naturally operates as a quantum error-corrected system remains entirely speculative, but it offers a framework for understanding how awareness might transcend the limitations of classical neural processing. If the brain has evolved mechanisms for protecting quantum coherence from environmental interference, as proposed in some theoretical models, then consciousness might access forms of information processing that approach the capabilities we're beginning to achieve with artificial quantum systems. Consider how your own consciousness maintains remarkable coherence and continuity despite the constant flux of neural activity, environmental changes, and physiological variations. the sense of being a continuous self persisting through time, the ability to maintain focused attention. Despite distractions, the capacity for complex reasoning that integrates information from multiple sources all suggest information processing capabilities that some researchers compare metaphorically to quantum properties. While these capabilities likely emerge from a sophisticated classical neural processing, some interpretations suggest they might be enhanced by quantum effects that operate below the threshold of conscious awareness. The question isn't whether consciousness creates quantum phenomena, but whether awareness naturally exploits quantum properties that exist within biological systems to achieve enhanced information processing and understanding. This remains a topic of scientific speculation, not established fact. The investigation of these possibilities continues through multiple research approaches that combine rigorous scientific methodology with direct contemplative investigation. Scientists develop increasingly sensitive instruments for detecting quantum effects in biological systems, while contemplatives explore the subjective dimensions of consciousness through sustained attention training and awareness cultivation. Neither approach alone can fully address the mystery of consciousness, but together they create possibilities for understanding that transcend the limitations of either domain. As you consider your own role in this investigation, notice how every moment of mindful attention contributes to the exploration of consciousness and its relationship to reality. Whether you approach these questions through scientific curiosity, contemplative practice, or simple wonder at the nature of awareness, you are participating in one of the most profound inquiries in human history, the investigation of consciousness itself and its place within the cosmic order. The quantum universe exists not as an abstract theoretical construct, but as the living reality within which your consciousness emerges, develops, and explores its own nature. Every thought, every perception, every moment of awareness participates in quantum processes that connect you to the deepest levels of cosmic organization and information processing. You are not observing the quantum realm from the outside, but living within it as one of its most remarkable expressions. The recognition that consciousness and cosmos are engaged in an eternal dance of discovery, with your awareness serving as both question and answer, seeker and sought, observer and observed, transforms the investigation from academic pursuit into lived exploration. The quantum connection between mind and universe reveals itself through the patient cultivation of attention, the gentle investigation of awareness, and the recognition that consciousness is not separate from the reality it explores, but rather reality exploring itself through the miracle of awakening awareness. As tonight's journey approaches its gentle conclusion, carry with you the recognition that these questions continue unfolding with each moment of conscious experience. The mystery of consciousness and its relationship to the quantum universe invites ongoing exploration through whatever approach resonates most deeply with your own curiosity and wonder. Whether through scientific research, contemplative practice, or simple attention to the miracle of awareness itself, you are participating in consciousness, investigating its own depths and discovering possibilities that stretch far beyond our current understanding. The quantum realm reveals itself not only through sophisticated experiments and theoretical models, but through the intimate experience of consciousness touching reality with patient precision. In the gentle space between knowing and not knowing, between individual awareness and cosmic consciousness, the most profound discoveries await your quiet investigation. For those ready to explore how these quantum principles might illuminate the deepest questions of existence and meaning, join me for our previous exploration, quantum connection between your mind and the universe, and why you can feel it, where we discovered how the boundary between personal awareness and cosmic consciousness might be far more permeable than we ever imagined, revealing connections that transform our understanding of what it means to be conscious in this magnificent, mysterious cosmos. The journey into these profound mysteries continues with each breath, each thought, each moment of recognition that you are not separate from the universe contemplating itself, but rather consciousness awakening to its own infinite nature through the unique perspective of human awareness, connected to all existence through threads of quantum possibility that span the vast tapestry of reality itself. The quantum realm operates according to principles so strange that even physicists who work with them daily admit they don't fully understand what's happening. Particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed. Information appears to correlate instantaneously across distances, and the very act of measurement seems to create the reality we experience. But here's what might be the most extraordinary discovery of all. The same mathematical patterns that describe quantum behavior also appear to govern how consciousness navigates uncertainty, how awareness processes information, and how contemplative practices naturally align with the deeper structures of reality itself. These parallels are conceptual and metaphorical, not evidence of direct quantum influence on consciousness. Tonight, we're embarking on a journey that bridges the laboratory and the meditation cushion, exploring how the principles that govern subatomic particles might also illuminate the nature of human awareness. This isn't about consciousness creating quantum effects or thoughts directly influencing reality. Instead, we'll discover how the mathematics of uncertainty, the dynamics of observation, and the interconnected nature of quantum systems offer profound insights into contemplative practice and the cultivation of wisdom. As you settle into this exploration, allow yourself to rest in the questions rather than seeking immediate answers. The parallels we'll uncover between quantum mechanics and contemplative wisdom aren't coincidences, but reflections of deeper patterns that seem to operate at every level of existence, from the smallest particles to the vast networks of consciousness that emerge when minds gather in shared inquiry. The story begins not with grand theoretical pronouncements, but with a simple observation that puzzled early quantum physicists. When they tried to measure both the position and momentum of a particle with perfect precision, they discovered something fundamental about the nature of reality itself. The more precisely they determined one property, the more uncertain the other became. This wasn't a limitation of their instruments or methodology. It was a basic feature of existence at the quantum level. Werner Heisenberg formalized this discovery as the uncertainty principle, which states that certain pairs of properties cannot be simultaneously measured with complete accuracy. But the deeper implication extends far beyond measurement problems. It suggests that reality at its foundation is genuinely uncertain, not merely unknown. Particles don't have definite positions and momenta waiting to be discovered. These properties emerge through the process of interaction and observation. Consider how this principle might appear in your own contemplative experience. When you sit in meditation and attempt to pin down exactly what a thought is or where it comes from, you often find that the closer you look, the more elusive thoughts become. Try to grasp a feeling precisely, and it shifts into something else. Attempt to locate the observer behind your experience, and the boundaries between observer and observed begin to dissolve. This isn't a perfect analogy, And it doesn't mean that consciousness operates through quantum mechanics. Rather, it suggests that uncertainty might be a fundamental feature of complex systems, whether physical or mental. Contemplative traditions have long recognized that the attempt to grasp experience too tightly often leads to frustration, while a gentler approach that accepts uncertainty can lead to profound insights. The uncertainty principle in meditation doesn't represent a failure of attention, but a recognition of reality's inherently fluid nature. Advanced practitioners often describe states of awareness, where the usual categories of self and other, inside and outside, known and unknown, become beautifully unclear. This isn't confusion, but a kind of precise not knowing that opens space for wisdom to emerge. As you reflect on your own experience with uncertainty, notice how the moments of not knowing in your life often precede significant insights or growth. The discomfort of uncertainty might actually signal that you're approaching something important, some edge of understanding that requires releasing fixed ideas about how things should be. Quantum superposition represents one of the most counterintuitive principles in physics. A quantum particle can exist in multiple states simultaneously until measurement forces it to choose one definite state. Schrödinger's famous cat thought experiment illustrated this strangeness by imagining a cat that remains both alive and dead until someone opens the box to observe it. While this example was meant to highlight the absurdity of applying quantum rules to everyday objects, it points to something profound about how reality emerges through interaction and observation. At the quantum level, particles don't have predetermined properties waiting to be discovered. Instead, they exist as clouds of possibility that crystallize into specific outcomes through the process of measurement. Contemplative practice reveals similar dynamics in the realm of consciousness. During meditation, you might notice how mental states exist in a kind of superposition before attention crystallizes around particular thoughts or emotions. The moment before you decide what you're feeling often contains multiple potential emotional responses, like quantum possibilities awaiting selection. This isn't suggesting that consciousness creates quantum superposition or that thoughts directly influence physical reality. Instead, it points to how complex systems, whether physical or mental, might share certain structural principles. Both domains reveal reality as more fluid and probabilistic than our everyday assumptions suggest. The practice of open awareness, common to many contemplative traditions, involves allowing consciousness to rest in a state similar to superposition. Instead of focusing on specific objects of attention, you maintain awareness of the entire field of experience without collapsing it into particular categories or judgments. This creates space for insights and understanding that wouldn't emerge through more directed forms of thinking. Consider how often your best ideas arise not through forced analysis, but during moments of relaxed awareness, when your mind isn't committed to specific outcomes. Walking, showering, or simply sitting quietly often provides the conditions for creative insights that seemed impossible during focused problem solving. This might reflect consciousness naturally accessing states that some theorists compare metaphorically to quantum superposition, where multiple possibilities remain open until a particular solution crystallizes. The quantum measurement problem asks why superposition collapses into definite states when observed. Different interpretations offer varying explanations, but they all grapple with the mysterious role that observation plays in determining quantum outcomes. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness itself might be involved in this process, though this remains highly controversial and lacks scientific consensus. Contemplative traditions have long emphasized the transformative power of observation. Mindfulness practice involves bringing gentle attention to whatever arises in experience, and practitioners often discover that this simple act of witnessing creates significant shifts without any effort to change what's observed. Thoughts, emotions, and sensations naturally transform when met with patient, non-judgmental awareness. This doesn't mean that consciousness causes quantum measurement or that meditation creates physical changes through quantum effects. Rather, it suggests that observation, whether in physics or contemplative practice, might be a more active process than we typically recognize. The quality of attention we bring to experience seems to influence what emerges, though the mechanisms remain mysterious in both domains. When you practice mindfulness, notice how the act of observing your breath, thoughts, or emotions seems to change them without any deliberate intervention. Simply witnessing experience with kind attention often creates a natural settling or clarification that occurs spontaneously. This transformation through observation mirrors the quantum principle that measurement plays an active role in determining outcomes, in a purely metaphorical sense, relevant to contemplative experience. The contemplative understanding of non-interference aligns closely with quantum measurement principles. Just as forcing a quantum measurement can disturb the system being observed, trying too hard to control meditative inexperience often creates agitation rather than insight. Both domains suggest that skillful observation involves a delicate balance between attention and allowing. Quantum entanglement demonstrates that particles can maintain instantaneous correlations across unlimited distances. When two particles become entangled, measuring one immediately affects its distant partner, regardless of the space between them. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, but experiments have repeatedly confirmed that entanglement is a fundamental feature of quantum mechanics. This phenomenon challenges our ordinary understanding of separateness and locality. Entangled particles seem to remain parts of a single system despite being spatially separated, suggesting that the quantum world operates through connections that transcend classical notions of distance and independence. Contemplative practice often reveals similar insights about the interconnected nature of experience. During deep meditation, the usual sense of being a separate self observing an external world can give way to recognition of fundamental interconnection. Practitioners frequently describe states where the boundaries between self and environment, observer and observed, become transparent or dissolve entirely. While this doesn't mean that consciousness creates quantum entanglement or that meditative insights directly reflect quantum phenomena, it suggests that both domains point toward a reality that is more interconnected than everyday experience suggests. Both quantum mechanics and contemplative practice reveal separateness as something imposed by limited perspective rather than fundamental to existence itself. Take a moment to notice how your own sense of separateness might be more fluid than you typically recognize. When you're deeply engaged in conversation, absorbed in creative work, or present with natural beauty, the boundaries between self and world often become less distinct. These experiences don't require quantum explanations, but they illustrate consciousness's natural capacity to recognize interconnection. The practice of loving-kindness meditation involves generating feelings of goodwill toward yourself, loved ones, neutral people, difficult people, and eventually all beings. Practitioners often discover that this cultivation of universal care creates a genuine sense of connection that transcends ordinary social boundaries. While this operates through well-understood psychological mechanisms, it points to consciousness's capacity to recognize relationships that extend far beyond immediate personal concerns. Some interpretations suggest that contemplative practices might naturally develop sensitivity to subtle forms of connection and information that operate below ordinary awareness. This remains entirely speculative, not scientifically proven, but it offers a framework for understanding how meditation might enhance intuitive understanding and empathetic response. The reported experiences of advanced practitioners, including enhanced sensitivity to others' emotional states and intuitive insights about complex situations, might reflect natural capacities that become more accessible through sustained contemplative training. These interpretations are philosophical rather than scientific conclusions. Quantum field theory reveals that what appears as empty space actually contains fluctuating energy fields that connect every point in the universe. Particles emerge as temporary excitations in these underlying fields, suggesting that reality consists more of relationships and dynamic processes than of separate, independent objects. This field-based understanding of physics finds unexpected resonance in contemplative descriptions of awareness. Many meditation traditions describe consciousness not as something located in the brain, but as a field-like presence that pervades experience. Advanced practitioners often report recognition of awareness as something more fundamental than thoughts, emotions, or sensory experiences, closer to the underlying space within which all mental events arise and pass away. While this parallel doesn't prove that consciousness operates through quantum fields, it illustrates how both scientific investigation and contemplative inquiry point toward reality as fundamentally relational and dynamic. Both domains suggest that what appears solid and separate might be better understood as patterns of interaction within underlying unity. As you investigate your own awareness right now, notice how consciousness seems to provide the space within which thoughts, emotions, and perceptions arise. This witnessing awareness doesn't seem to be created by mental events, but rather appears to be the field within which they occur. Contemplative practice often involves recognizing this background awareness and learning to rest in its natural spaciousness. The field-like quality of awareness becomes particularly apparent during group meditation or collective contemplative practices. Participants often report experiences that seem to transcend individual boundaries, feeling connected to a shared field of consciousness that supports and enhances individual practice. While this might reflect social and psychological factors rather than quantum field effects, it points to consciousness as something that emerges through relationship and interaction rather than existing in isolation. Recent research in quantum biology has revealed that living systems routinely exploit quantum effects for enhanced biological function. Plants use quantum coherence in photosynthesis to transport energy with remarkable efficiency. Some bird species appear to navigate using quantum entanglement in specialized proteins within their retinas. These discoveries demonstrate that quantum mechanics isn't confined to sterile laboratories, but operates continuously within the biological systems that sustain life. While no scientific consensus exists about consciousness directly utilizing quantum effects, the fact that biological systems successfully harness quantum properties opens questions about whether contemplative practices might potentially enhance sensitivity to quantum information processing. This remains entirely speculative, but it suggests that the boundary between quantum and classical physics might be more fluid in biological systems than previously thought. Consider how contemplative practices often enhance capacities that seem to exceed ordinary mental processing. Experienced meditators frequently report improved intuitive decision-making, enhanced creativity, and subtle awareness of environmental changes that aren't consciously detected. While these improvements likely reflect sophisticated classical neural processing, some interpretations suggest they might benefit from a hypothetical increased sensitivity to quantum information that naturally occurs in biological systems. The cultivation of present moment awareness, central to most contemplative traditions, involves developing sensitivity to subtle aspects of experience that are typically overlooked. This enhanced perceptual acuity might naturally extend to quantum-level information processing, though this remains unverified and highly theoretical. The question isn't whether meditation creates quantum effects, but whether sustained attention training might enhance access to forms of information processing that operate at the intersection of classical and quantum domains. As you explore present moment awareness in your own experience, notice how mindful attention seems to reveal layers of subtlety that aren't apparent during ordinary distracted consciousness. The texture of sounds, the nuances of emotional states, the subtle energetic qualities of different environments all become more vivid when met with sustained, gentle attention. This enhanced sensitivity might reflect the full development of classical perceptual capabilities, or it might indicate access to more subtle forms of information processing that bridge classical and quantum domains in ways not yet scientifically established. The quantum measurement problem explores why superposition collapses into definite states when observed. Different interpretations offer varying explanations, but they all grapple with the mysterious role that information and observation play in determining quantum outcomes. The act of gaining information about a quantum system seems to fundamentally alter its behavior, suggesting that knowledge and reality are more intimately connected than classical physics suggested. Contemplative practice reveals similar dynamics in the realm of consciousness. The simple act of bringing awareness to mental and emotional states often transforms them without any deliberate effort to create change. Mindfulness doesn't suppress or manipulate experience, but creates conditions where natural wisdom and balance can emerge spontaneously. This transformation through observation doesn't require quantum explanations, but it illustrates how information and awareness might play more active roles in determining experience than we typically recognize. Both quantum measurement and mindful observation suggest that reality emerges through interaction rather than existing as predetermined facts waiting to be discovered. The contemplative principle of non-interference aligns closely with quantum measurement dynamics. Just as forcing quantum measurements can disturb the systems being observed, trying too hard to control meditative experience often creates agitation rather than insight. Both domains suggest that skillful observation involves a delicate balance between attention and allowing, engagement and spaciousness. When you practice observing your own mental states, notice how different qualities of attention create different outcomes. Harsh, judgmental observation often increases mental agitation, while gentle, curious attention tends to create natural, settling, and clarification. This isn't because consciousness directly influences quantum states, but because awareness itself has qualities that influence how experience unfolds. The quantum principle of complementarity states that objects have pairs of properties that cannot be observed simultaneously, but are both necessary for complete understanding. The wave-particle duality of light exemplifies this principle. Light behaves like a wave in some experiments and like a particle in others, but never both simultaneously. Both descriptions are accurate but incomplete on their own. Contemplative wisdom reveals similar complementary aspects of consciousness and experience. The relative level of conventional experience, where we function as separate selves navigating an external world, represents one valid perspective. The ultimate level, where the boundaries between self and world become transparent, offers another, equally valid, but seemingly contradictory understanding. Advanced contemplative practice involves learning to hold these complementary perspectives simultaneously without trying to resolve the apparent contradiction. This isn't intellectual confusion, but a kind of cognitive flexibility that mirrors quantum complementarity. Both levels of understanding are necessary for complete wisdom, even though they seem to contradict each other from limited viewpoints. As you reflect on your own experience, notice how different perspectives on the same situation can all be simultaneously true. You are both an individual person with particular concerns and responsibilities, and also awareness itself, fundamentally connected to all existence. These aren't competing truths, but complementary aspects of a reality too rich to be captured by any single description. The practice of holding paradox, common to many wisdom traditions, develops the cognitive flexibility necessary for understanding complementary truths. Instead of trying to resolve apparent contradictions through analysis, contemplative practice cultivates the capacity to rest comfortably within uncertainty and multiplicity. This mirrors the quantum mechanical insight that complete understanding sometimes requires accepting seemingly incompatible perspectives as equally valid. Quantum coherence refers to the property that allows quantum systems to maintain relationships between different possible states. When coherence is preserved, quantum systems can exist in superposition and exhibit behaviors impossible for classical systems. When coherence is lost through environmental interference, quantum systems behave classically and lose their special properties. Contemplative practice often involves cultivating states of consciousness that share interesting parallels with quantum coherence. During deep meditation, the usual mental chatter and emotional reactivity can give way to states of clear, unified awareness, where different aspects of experience remain connected rather than fragmented into separate concerns. This contemplative coherence doesn't mean that consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms, but it suggests that complex systems, whether physical or mental, might share certain organizational principles. Both quantum coherence and meditative clarity involve maintaining unified states despite potential fragmentation from environmental disturbances. The cultivation of mental coherence through contemplative practice involves learning to maintain clear awareness despite the constant stream of thoughts, emotions, sensations, and external stimuli that could fragment attention. This requires developing what contemplatives call one-pointed mind, or shamatha in Buddhist terminology, a state of unified awareness that remains stable and clear regardless of changing conditions. As you experiment with maintaining coherent awareness in your own experience, notice how different factors support or disturb mental clarity. Environmental distractions, emotional agitation, and scattered thinking all tend to fragment attention, while quiet environments, emotional balance, and focused practice support unified awareness. This isn't quantum decoherence, but it illustrates how complex systems require specific conditions to maintain their most refined organizational states. The phenomenon of quantum tunneling allows particles to pass through barriers that should be impossible to cross according to classical physics. Particles can appear on the other side of energy barriers without having enough energy to go over them, as if they tunneled through solid walls. This seemingly impossible behaviour emerges naturally from quantum wave properties and is essential to many biological and technological processes. Contemplative practice sometimes reveals analogous breakthroughs where insights or understanding emerge despite apparent obstacles. Practitioners often describe sudden moments of clarity that seem to bypass ordinary logical processes, arriving at understanding without following conventional reasoning pathways. These contemplative breakthroughs don't require quantum explanations, but they illustrate how complex systems, whether physical or mental, sometimes transcend apparent limitations through mechanisms that aren't immediately obvious. The cultivation of patience and persistence in contemplative practice creates conditions where breakthrough insights can emerge spontaneously. Like quantum tunneling, these moments often occur when practitioners maintain gentle effort without forcing outcomes. The combination of sustained attention and relaxed allowing seems to create openings where understanding can appear even when direct analytical approaches seem blocked. Consider your own experiences of insight or creative breakthrough that seem to emerge from nowhere. Often these moments occur not through intense effort, but during relaxed states when you've stopped trying to force solutions. Walking, showering, or sitting quietly frequently provides conditions where breakthrough understanding can tunnel through the barriers created by analytical thinking. The practice of inquiry in contemplative traditions involves sustaining profound questions without rushing toward answers. Questions like, "Who am I?" or "What is the nature of awareness?" are held with patient attention, creating space for understanding to emerge through non-linear processes that bypass conceptual limitations. This sustained questioning creates conditions analogous to quantum tunneling, where insight can appear despite apparent barriers to understanding. If you enjoy drifting through these explorations without interruption, members get every episode 48 hours early, completely ad-free. You can join them whenever you feel ready. The quantum Zeno effect demonstrates that frequent observation can actually freeze quantum evolution, preventing systems from changing by measuring them too often. This counterintuitive phenomenon shows that the timing and frequency of measurement significantly influence quantum behavior, with continuous observation essentially stopping quantum processes from unfolding naturally. Contemplative practice reveals similar dynamics in consciousness. Over-analyzing meditative experience or constantly checking on the state of your mind often prevents the natural deepening that occurs when awareness is allowed to settle without interference. The contemplative equivalent of the quantum Zeno effect involves learning when to observe and when to simply allow experience to unfold naturally. Experienced practitioners develop sensitivity to the rhythm of observation, and allowing that supports contemplative deepening. Too much analysis fragments the natural flow of meditative awareness, while too little attention allows the mind to wander into distraction. Skillful practice involves finding the balance between engagement and spaciousness that allows consciousness to evolve naturally. As you experiment with different qualities of attention in your own contemplative experience, notice how the frequency and intensity of self-observation affects the natural flow of awareness. Gentle, intermittent checking often supports deeper settling, while constant monitoring tends to create agitation and prevent the natural deepening that meditation can provide. The principle of least action in quantum mechanics states that physical systems naturally evolve along paths that minimize the action required to get from one state to another. This elegant principle suggests that nature tends toward efficiency and economy, taking the most direct routes through the landscape of possibilities. Contemplative wisdom reveals similar principles in the cultivation of awareness and understanding. Effective contemplative practice often involves learning to work with natural tendencies rather than against them, finding the path of least resistance toward greater clarity and wisdom. Forcing meditative states or trying too hard to achieve particular outcomes usually creates tension and prevents the natural settling that leads to insight. The art of effortless effort, central to many contemplative traditions, involves finding the minimal intervention necessary to support awareness without creating strain or agitation. Like physical systems following paths of least action, consciousness seems to naturally move toward greater clarity and balance when not impeded by excessive effort or interference. Consider how this principle might apply to your own contemplative practice. Often the most profound meditative states arise not through intense concentration, but through gentle, sustained attention that allows awareness to settle naturally. The path of least action in meditation involves finding just enough effort to maintain attention without creating tension or forcing outcomes. The cultivation of Wu Wei in Taoist tradition exemplifies this principle of minimal intervention for maximum effect. Wu Wei doesn't mean inaction, but rather action that flows naturally from understanding rather than forcing. This principle applies not only to contemplative practice, but to all aspects of life where we learn to work with natural patterns rather than against them. Quantum entanglement demonstrates non-local correlations that seem to transcend ordinary space and time. When particles become entangled, they maintain instantaneous connections regardless of distance, suggesting that reality operates through relationships that exceed classical limitations of locality and causality. Contemplative practice often reveals experiences of connection that similarly transcend ordinary boundaries of space, time, and individual identity. During deep meditation, practitioners frequently report feeling connected to universal consciousness or cosmic awareness in ways that are interpreted as extending beyond personal boundaries. These experiences don't require quantum explanations, but they point to consciousness's capacity to recognize forms of connection that exceed ordinary perception. The cultivation of universal compassion in contemplative traditions involves extending care and concern beyond the boundaries of personal relationship toward all sentient beings. This practice often generates genuine feelings of connection that seem to transcend the limitations of direct contact or personal knowledge. While this operates through well-understood psychological mechanisms, it illustrates consciousness's natural capacity for recognizing interconnection. As you explore the quality of connection in your own experience, notice how awareness naturally extends beyond the physical boundaries of your body. When you focus attention on distant sounds, feel concern for people in other locations, or experience empathy for beings you've never met, consciousness demonstrates its capacity to transcend apparent limitations of proximity and familiarity. The practice of dedication of merit, common to many Buddhist traditions, involves sharing the benefits of contemplative practice with all beings. Practitioners often experience this not as mere conceptual exercise, but as genuine extension of goodwill that seems to transcend individual boundaries. Whether this reflects actual non-local connection or simply the natural expansion of compassionate awareness is open to interpretation, but it illustrates consciousness's capacity to recognize relationships that extend far beyond immediate personal concerns. The quantum measurement problem continues to puzzle physicists because it reveals the active role that observation plays in determining reality. Different interpretations offer varying explanations, but they all acknowledge that measurement fundamentally changes quantum systems rather than simply revealing pre-existing properties. As we reach the end of tonight's gentle exploration, we find ourselves at the threshold between the quantum laboratory and the meditation cushion, between the mathematics of uncertainty and the wisdom of not knowing. What began with Google's Willow chip accessing parallel realities has led us through territories where the deepest insights of physics and the most profound discoveries of contemplative practice seem to whisper the same ancient secrets about the nature of existence itself. We've seen how reality, at its foundation, refuses to be pinned down, how observation transforms what it witnesses, and how the boundaries between separate systems dissolve under careful investigation. Whether in the quantum realm or the depths of consciousness, we encounter a universe that is far more fluid, interconnected, and mysteriously responsive than our everyday assumptions suggest. The parallels we've explored tonight don't prove that meditation creates quantum effects, or that consciousness directly influences physical reality. Instead, they reveal something more beautiful, that the same patterns of uncertainty, interconnection, and transformation seem to operate at every level of existence, from subatomic particles to the vast networks of awareness that emerge when minds gather in shared wonder. As you drift into rest or remain gently alert, carry with you this recognition. You are not separate from the quantum universe contemplating itself, but rather one of its most remarkable expressions, participating in an eternal dance of discovery, where every moment of awareness touches the deepest mysteries of existence with the precision of focused attention and the vastness of open curiosity. For those ready to explore how these quantum principles illuminate the profound connections between individual consciousness and cosmic awareness, I invite you to discover the next gentle exploration in this series, the quantum connection between your mind and the universe, and why you can feel it, where we'll journey even deeper into the miraculous intersection of science and contemplative wisdom.